You can hear the seeds land on the ground. Amaranth is really good for you. It's very good to fight cholesterol with, so it's good for the heart, I guess. It's an antioxidant. A lot of people eat the leaves. Leaves are good for you. And you could look it up. So many, I looked it up earlier this morning. Look at, you can see the seeds just coming right off of this plant. And they're primed and ready to go. I'm going to try to get as much of this as I can. Beautiful plant. We once planted amaranth in the garden, gosh, 6 or 7 years ago maybe. And every once in a while you see some volunteers coming up here or there, down here by the garden area. It's kind of funny. So I'm just going to try to get as much of this as I can. It takes a lot to make 130 grams. I need 130 grams of amaranth seed for my recipe. That should be pretty good. It's going to be fun. If you're a long-time listener of the channel, you've probably come to figure out that I like to do things that are a bit on the unusual side. I don't know why. I just do. Oh my, we've gotten quite a few seeds already. Not even trying. That's really something. Okay, I'm going to grab some more. All you have to do is set the plant down, set a branch of it down, and you'll see, hey Emma, hi girl, I'm over here girl. Just set a plant of it, or a branch of it down, and you've got amaranth seed everywhere. Those scissors might be a bit too aggressive. It's wonderful to be outside. Today's going to be a bit warm. They're calling for maybe 81 degrees today. That's a bit warm for me. This time of year anyway. I don't take the heat too well. I'm just stripping these branches. I don't know if you can see it. Stripping the branches of these seeds. I was saving some beet seeds up at the house. Underneath the grow lights, I had a tray of beet seed drying out, and we just packaged them up. See if we can get them to grow next year. I've never saved beet seeds before. So we'll see if that works. They look like beet seeds, so they will probably work. Amaranth is such a beautiful plant. Every time I lay one of these branches down, you see amaranth seed everywhere, the little black seeds. Amaranth is such a beautiful plant. I feel so lucky to have an amaranth plant growing, and it's a volunteer at that. Okay, building on yesterday's video, here is the now cleaned amaranth seed. We did get a question. How do you know when the amaranth is ready to be harvested of its seed? And the way I tell is when it is bending way over from the extra weight of the seed. It bends way over. In fact, if you don't get that seed, I have found that the amaranth plants will actually fall over. So the next thing I want to do is to weigh to see how much I have. Okay, I'm going to gently and carefully transfer the seed to this little container. It looks like that will be enough. Once I grind it into flour, that should be enough seed for this bread experiment. It looks like I've got about 160 grams of amaranth, and once I grind that into my flour, that should still be enough for my bread. I did get an offer from a Kathy who offered to send me more amaranth if I needed more for the bread. But thank you anyway, Kathy. It looks like I'm going to have enough. So thank you very much for that offer. Good morning, everybody. We're up nice and early this morning because we have a lot of work to do. We're going to be making a loaf of bread today out of a flour that's been banned for centuries. As far back as the Spaniards originally banned this flour in the 16th century, and then Peter the Great banned it. So we're going to go into some of that history, but this is a bread made out of amaranth flour, and we grew a small batch of amaranth and just enough to make a loaf of bread out of. So that's what we're going to do today. So stay tuned. This is a little bowl of amaranth that we're going to use in our bread. The dark amaranth you see underneath here is what we grew. There's about 70 different species of amaranth, and we happen to grow one of them, and it's this darker one. I think it might be called Hoppy Red, but then we didn't quite have enough. I needed just a little bit more for this loaf of bread, so we went to the store and we were able to buy this bag of amaranth. But it comes in grain form, so it has to be ground into the flour, which is a simple step. So that's what we're going to do next. I just wanted to mention that I've never made amaranth bread, so I'm kind of teaching myself as I go. I'm going to use French bread baking methods, except I'm going to be using 25% of the flour will be amaranth. But anyway, we tried to grind it with a mock mill attached to the KitchenAid, as you just saw, and I'm not really happy with the results. I think we can do better. So Danielle had the idea of using her spice mill / coffee mill, and sure enough it does do a finer job. I like the consistency of this result better, so we're going to do the rest of it. We're going to run it through the coffee mill. Okay, to mix this thing up, we're going to begin with 250 grams of water. I don't know how amaranth is going to work with water. It might soak it up. So I'm going to be prepared to put more water in it while I'm shaping the loaf. See how it behaves. So there's 250. Now we're going to put in 2 grams of yeast. This is going to be a yeast bread, not a sourdough. I've never made this bread before, so I want to have some control over it. And we're going to put in our poulish that we made last night. If you've been watching our channel, you've seen me make lots of baguettes and breads with a poulish. So if you haven't seen it yet, the poulish is, in this instance, is 150 grams of water, room temperature water, maybe 30 grains of yeast, or just a small pinch, and 150 grams of flour. We use bread flour. So there's our poulish, and we're going to just mix it nice with our hand. Next we'll put in 11 grams of salt. We're going to put in 50 grams of whole wheat flour to give it some body and strength. we're going to put in our 137 grams of amaranth flour. This is going to be very interesting. And we're going to put in 263 grams of bread flour. Okay, so we're going to give this a little pre-stir and take it to the mixer. I've hand mixed a lot of bread down through the years, but the mixer does a little bit better job than me. In fact, maybe a lot better job than me. But I do enjoy hand mixing. I'll just let the stand mixer do it for me. We let the stand mixer work its magic. Now we've got our dough, and we're going to transfer it to my favorite mixing bowl. Put a little bit of oil in it because this dough is very sticky. Want to be able to get the dough out of the mixing bowl again. It's very gritty feeling. Okay, very, very important to have wet hands when you mix this stuff. So we're just going to give it a few folds. Just like that. And then we're going to put a towel on it. And we're going to let it bench rest for about 30 minutes. Now it's time to do the first set of folds. I like to have a wet hand when I do this because the dough is very sticky. And we're just picking up one side, raising it, and folding it over on top of itself. And this helps to build strength. Just a few folds is all we need. It's very sticky. And then we're going to come back in another half hour and do another set of folds. Just going to tuck it underneath itself. And that's it. We'll see you in another half hour. Our half hour has gone by, so now it's time to do the second set of folds. I'm going to wet my hand again. The dough is on the sticky side, but it's handling quite well. And again, I'm just picking it up and folding it down on itself. And this is going to help us to build some strength. And I'll do that maybe 4 more times. I actually enjoy handling the dough in this manner, and it's hard for me to just keep going. But I think there should be a limit. That dark amaranth color really comes through. This is going to be an interesting looking loaf of bread. So that's about it. I'll just kind of tuck all the sides underneath itself. And that'll be it. Okay, now it's time to bring our dough down off the warm spot and shape our loaf. It rose pretty good. And because I put olive oil in this mixing bowl, It came out easily. Alright, make sure I have flour on my fingertips. This is going to be nothing more than just a series of stapling it closed. Any big bubbles like that we like to deflate. So we just kind of staple it closed. I don't want to deflate it fully like I would a baguette. And I have a banneton here that we're going to put it in. So we're just going to turn it and give it some strength building turns on our surface here. Isn't that nice?
Beautiful.
And then we're going to put it in our banneton. Now when we put it in the banneton, we want to put it in seam side up. So this is the seam side. This is not. This is the seam side. We want that side to be up. And I often go ahead and staple it together once it's in the banneton. So now we're going to cover it again here on the deck, and we're going to let it continue to bench rest and rise. The fermentation is over, so now it's just going to rise. Well, we'll let it rise for maybe an hour, and then we'll come in and check it again. So we'll give it another hour. Boop. See you later. Okay, we pulled the Dutch. We're using a Dutch oven, and we're running the oven at around 500 degrees. And so I just pulled the Dutch oven out of the oven, and I plopped our bread into it. I'm using a piece of parchment paper. I scored the top of the bread with a lamb, and I backed it up with scissors. So now I'm going to give it a nice spray because we're trying to form a nice crust. A lot of the flavor of bread comes from the crust, I believe. So we'll spray that and we'll put the lid on the Dutch oven. And in the oven it goes. Great. It's a very hot oven, and we'll leave it in there for 18 minutes with the lid on. Then we'll take the lid off and leave it in for another 20 to 24 minutes. Alright, the alarm went off. Now I have to take the Dutch oven out, take the lid off, and put the Dutch oven back in. But this is also the first reveal, we call it. Boop. It's kind of pretty. Turn it around and in she goes. Looks a lot like a rye bread so far. Time to turn the bread around. We had the lid on the Dutch oven earlier because we're trying to form a great crust. These breads get a wonderful crust, and they get a lot of their flavor from the crust. So we're trying really hard to develop that good tasting crust. But with a wood stove like this, you have to, when you're baking, you have to turn your baked items around every so forth and so on, because you don't want it to get too hot on one side. It'll burn on one side. So in about 10 more minutes it should be done. Alright, our timer went off, so our bread is finished. Amaranth bread. Not too bad. We'll let that cool off and then we'll slice into it. Well, it's been 20 minutes and I can't wait any longer, so I'm going to just cut open into this thing and see what the crust looks like, or rather the crumb. It's probably a little early, but There you go. Amaranth bread. How do you like that? I've never made this before, but we grew some amaranth and I wanted to make a bread with it. A lot of people make porridge and put it on this and that and the other, but I wanted to make bread like they did in the really old days. Amaranth was banned for about 4 centuries. In fact, even in 1976, our United States FDA banned amaranth for use. I think because it was used for red dye number 2. At some point, it came off the banned list, and I know that Peter the Great in the 1600s, or was it the 1700s, he banned the cultivation of amaranth. So this is a bread, or rather a grain, that has had a lot of controversial past. And that's the type of a thing that attracts me to it, anything with a controversial past. So amaranth is an interesting grain. It's actually a pseudo grain or a pseudo cereal because it has no gluten. It has a lot of protein though, so for you vegetarians out there, you might want to consider consuming amaranth. Amaranth has about 14% protein as opposed to regular all-purpose flour, which is 11.7, and bread flour, which is 12.7. Whole wheat flour is 13.2, usually 13.2 to 13.7, but amaranth is 14% protein. So it's you could actually call it a superfood. So if I'm a vegetarian, I'm going to definitely include it in my diet. I am not a vegetarian. I used to be. But it's just a very interesting grain. So I think I'm going to have a bite of it.
Okay. Oh, the crumb is so beautiful, and it's soft. You know, you see a dark bread and you expect it to be like a rock.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really tender.
I did put some whole wheat in it.
Mmm.
So that helps a little bit to give it a little bit of a darker shade. You know, you want to have some, muscle to it.
Try it with a little butter.
Okay.
Mm. Oh boy. I just made a fava bean and tahini dip. You can try that too.
Okay. All from our garden.
Mmm. Oh boy. That's really pure. Just wonderful.
The crust turned out good.
Oh yeah. Mmm. Wow, everything in here.
It actually has a good flavor. Wouldn't you say? I mean, you've got
And
rye.
you can't compare it to anything else.
No, you've got rye, you've got wheat. But this is amaranth. It's its own classification.
Mm-hmm.
Its own flavor, but it's a good flavor.
It is unique. Almost indescribable. I don't know how to describe it. It's just so good.
We'll have to make it again.
Mmm. Please.
I'm out of our homegrown amaranth. I guess the next thing I'll have to make is bread with that lamb's quarter seed.
I look forward to making a ham sandwich with a little mustard and also tuna fish on this.
This is a great bread.
Whoa.
Amaranth bread.
Full spectrum.
You can't buy amaranth bread. It's another one of those things that we eat that you can't buy anywhere.
But you now can make it yourselves.
Yep.
And then you can say, nah, you can't buy this anywhere.
I decide I designed my own recipe based on a French bread recipe, and then I took out some of the bread flour and replaced it with about 25% of the amaranth flour.
Wow. And I'd say the slices have to be this thick,
Oh yeah.
so you get that soft.
All right, well
Rich.
that's just about going to do it from here. We're going to eat bread for a while, so
Yeah.
we'll catch you on the next one. Okay, bye.